Bob Wilson and Sir Warren Brown back with another show. This should be a lot of fun as we're having Beatles Trivia with Evan Riley. And we also have our lifeline on that, the one who saves Warren's butt all the time, his wife, Carol Brown. So welcome, everybody. How's everybody tonight?
All right. Hello. Hi, Bob. Carol said hello.
Hey, wife, so Warren. Is your wife ready to be our lifeline?
Nope. You didn't need a lifeline. You guys are experts.
She's just being kind. She's just being kind. All right, we're lucky to have her there. But we know she's a...
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
I think you were... You go ahead. You say hello to Evan there.
How's it going, Evan?
Oh, everything's fine. Just typical another Beatles fan like you. Want to discuss the Beatles.
Awesome. I'm ready.
All right, Evan, tell us a little bit about your book, will you? I hear it's got some awesome pictures in it and trivia questions and stuff, but I'll leave the rest to you. Tell us about your book.
All right, it is entitled The Beatleologist Kid. I was an early Beatles fan. I was like 11 years old when they hit America, but 1964. But I also knew about them a little bit before because I was an Army brat. I lived overseas, and while living in Germany, my mother had met a lady from Liverpool. And, of course, nobody knew what Liverpool, where that even was back then. But after we came back to America and she went back to England, my mother and her were tight, and they wrote letters back and forth, and she kind of was talking about the Beatles then, because they were popular in Liverpool a good year or so before they hit the rest of England and then later on America. So I don't know. I just kept on hearing the Beatles, and I became an early fan. So in my book, I'm a lifelong fan. The introduction tells a little bit about how I came to be a Beatles fan. But I wrote the book as a trivia-type book because I realize a lot of people are not book readers. I have a lot of books, all kinds of Beatles books, and in my trivia, I tried to make it accurate as I could. If something was Urban's legend or Beatles myth, I just didn't use stuff like that because it may not be completely true. So the purpose of the trivia book is a person could read it and read about each Beatle, something about their songs, the movies, the concerts, the heyday of the Beatles, the whole time they were together until they dissolved, and then a category of the Beatles in general. And by the time they get through, there's like 800 trivia questions. Hopefully they would learn something about the Beatles without having to read volume after volume of big books like myself and Warren and you probably read. The pictures are more Beatles related as far as me growing up with them, what I look like, girls I went to school with who were fans, my family. And I eventually did get to go to Liverpool twice and London as well. So the pictures I took were related to, where they lived, where the Beatles lived, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields, Abbey Road, things like that, because when I did the pictures, I wasn't sure about copyrights and which pictures you could use. Some said, yes, this is public domain. Some said no. So there's not like a lot of pictures of the Beatles per se of them, but just all of their surroundings and their world. So that's what pretty much all the nice pictures consist of. And again, my life growing up with them.
Now, if fans want to get a copy of this for themselves and they can see all these pictures and, check out your writing and such, where can they find the book?
Okay, it is on Amazon.com books. I'm a self-published author, but it is on Amazon.com books. And they can go to that link, and find that. There's also a Kindle version with the pictures and trivia. Some people, it's a lot cheaper with the Kindle. Some people like that, but others, at least my age bracket, they seem to like the actual book. So Amazon.com books, The Beatleologist Kid is the title of it, or Evan F. Riley Jr., that's me. I have written some other books that may pop up. They're a sci-fi type thing, time travelers called The Time Maidens, and even in that one of those books, the time travelers actually go back to Shea Stadium in 1965, 3 of them, to a Beatles concert, and one of them accidentally runs into the Beatles. So there's leaving a little story there. But that's a different, thing going down about the Time Maidens. But The Beatleologist Kid on Amazon.com books.
Cool.
Now, I noticed when I was looking at your page on Facebook, I was noticing some of the stuff you were posting. It was very interesting. I enjoyed it. A lot of the posts were from a Penny Lane museum. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that was pretty cool. Actually, that came about with my book. I went to a intellectual property lawyer to make sure the pictures I was using were okay and I wouldn't have any problems with copyrights and all of that. And he was very helpful. And he said something about, well, have you heard about the new museum? I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, and a little city up a little ways, 20 minutes, 25 minutes away, is called Dunedin. And he said there's a new Beatles museum up there called Penny Lane. Now, since then, I'd already been to Penny Lane in England and Liverpool and all that. So I thought, no, I haven't heard of that. So I looked it up, and it turns out to be it's a guy. He grew up in Liverpool near the Best. Remember Pete Best? And his family went to school with Roy Best. So he saw the Beatles from the start in Liverpool, the Cavern, and he just became like a collector from day one and just never, I mean, way more than most of us have. And he just kept holding on to them and buying more memorabilia and so on. So I don't even know what he did for actual work, but he's been in Florida for a while. And the museum is free. It's only open like 3 days a week. He's the curator, and he sits there and answers all the questions. And you see all the pictures. You're allowed to take as many pictures as you want. He expressed interest in my book. He liked that, too. And he sells T-shirts, mugs, those kind of things. But he had so much memorabilia. As you see, I'm not even halfway through. I'm still posting it. And at the end, if somebody wants to make a little contribution, towards it, they can. But it's his private collection. He's a Liverpool lad, as he says. I think eventually he's even going to try to get a bigger space. He's in an area now where all the artists are, a little street there with antique shops and artists. It's not a very big place, but it's just packed from floor to ceiling with all these pictures and memorabilia, you see that I post.
Now, Warren usually puts a little background video on behind the show after we edit it. Would it be okay if he maybe added some of those pictures in for everybody to see?
Yeah, all the pictures I sent Warren, I think most of the ones I sent are of my own trip. If anybody wants to see from the actual museum, he does have a Facebook page. I think Warren found it and the link, and he has everything in there as well. So he doesn't care about what's posted, on other people's, sites, Facebook or Instagram. But I think his little page, Facebook page, pretty much has everything as well.
Well, we mentioned the museum so much. What's the fellow's name?
Oh, boy. Now, that part I don't just get out. I can get the card out.
We'll have to use the magic of Google during the show and give him a shout-out because it sounds like an interesting place. But I'll turn it over to Warren to ask you a couple of Beatle questions here.
All right. All right, Evan. First of all, your book sounds very interesting, and I can't wait to read it. You said it had 800 trivia questions in it?
Yeah.
Did I hear you say?
Yeah. It starts out with John. So it's like 100 questions to John, then Paul, then George, then Ringo. And then it gets into 100 of questions of music, the movies, then the concerts, their touring years, and then the last one's like the Beatles, just a category called the Beatles with just, random questions about each one again, different questions, of course, or different things involving them. Then there's, after each category, let's say with John, there's like 25, I just call them fun facts, just 25 statements or something about John, and then 25 of Paul and so on. So there's like 800 trivia questions, and then 200 fun facts, I call it in the book, along with the pictures.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty big book. How many pages is it?
It is 314 pages. So that's this reason why it was kind of costly. Again, me being self-published. So it's even Amazon had mentioned, how about just doing, if you wanted to do black and white? And I just thought, well, what, it's not like I'm writing for a living. I said, I'd rather have the book top quality as best I can because it's my story too. And I felt with the black and white pictures, it may have cut the price in half, but it just didn't do it justice.
Wow, that sounds cool. And that's a pretty big book to have 800 trivia questions in it. Very interesting. I appreciate that. You also belong to a Facebook group you are admin in. What is that called?
Well, that's yours. That's how you and I met. The Beatles Kingdom, and also the Beatles Kingdom featured. Right, that was the other spinoff of that one as well.
Yes.
I belonged to other Beatles groups before, and they asked me to post trivia. I might say too, originally the trivia book I was trying to make a board game out of it, and that got to be costly and complicated too. I even sent all my material into Trivial Pursuit, and they said, well, that's nice, but they didn't feel like there was enough for a Beatles game. And then meanwhile, they came up with their own with Trivial Pursuit, but that's a different thing there. So I was posting trivia on different Beatles sites, and some were not quite as large as yours, and just I don't know. I think I just came across yours because of other Beatles groups, and I asked to join, and you put me on, and you and I started talking, and then that's how we came from there. But the Beatles Kingdom, it seems to be growing, as you know, and people from all over the world are starting to get into it. So that's they seem to like the pictures I post from my trip or the museum, whatever it is. I kind of go back and forth between the two Beatles Kingdom groups, posting various pictures and trivia.
That's awesome. And yes, I see your post every day, and they are good pictures and good trivia you have on there also. And I appreciate that very much. Well, we're going to let you do some of your trivia here. And I want to introduce my wife, Carol. She's going to be Bob and I's lifeline. And
hey, Carol.
Hey, Carol. The women usually are the lifeline.
Go on, tootin'.
I don't know how loud you can hear her. She's pretty distance behind me, so I hope you can hear her okay.
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 I guess go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
I have a first question to ask before we start. Who runs the Beatle Museum in Dunedin, Florida, the Penny Lane Museum? It is Colin Bissett, who grew up in Liverpool, so we wanted to get that in here. That was a tough question on the pinch when we surprised you with that one, but we wanted to get his name in.
Yeah, we should, because anybody that wants to go up there should. He's all, he runs it by himself. That's why he's an older fellow, so he's only open like 3 days a week and several hours, and it's packed. I'll tell you, word's getting around, and you'll see people from all over, because Dunedin's kind of a Florida tourist town anyway, at least that section. So I heard people speaking Swedish. I heard people from Japan. I mean, it's just like I said, it's just like going to Penny Lane or a museum in Liverpool, because this guy's got all the neat stuff. He's got autographed pictures, everything.
Yeah, it's at 7:30.
That sounds like a wonderful visit.
Carol said it's at 730 Broadway Street.
And it's ran by Dr. Brown himself.
Bob said that. Thank you. And Bob, this is for you. That was the correct answer.
All right, we got one there for the curator of the Penny Lane Museum. So we got one right. So no matter what happens, we didn't get shut out, no matter how hard these questions are.
Very true.
All right, Bulldog, you ready for some trivia?
As long as your wife is there as the lifeline, I'm ready.
Okay, here you go. Wait 1 second. It's on you now, Evan.
All right. What I'm going to do, like I said, the categories are kind of all, mixed up. I'll tell you what it's about and then ask the question. They're either multiple choice or true and false, or it might even be one answer or the other. We'll come to that. So you'll, when I read the question, you know what I'm asking. So the first question is, and this has to do with John Lennon. It says, while attending Liverpool Art College, John Lennon took commercial art. What did John want to draw? A, science fiction monsters for magazines. B, pretty girls for toothpaste posters. C, political satire cartoons. What do you think?
Sir Warren, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking B.
That sounds about right. I don't know. The satirist sounds up there too, but I'll go with Warren. We'll go with B.
All right, guys, that's it. Pretty girls for toothpaste posters. A lot of people
Yay.
are off. Yeah, they may have thought political satire, but John, this we're talking about when he was 16, 17 years old, so he wasn't into all that kind of thing then. It was for the toothpaste commercial for the pretty girls. So that's good. You got that one.
No
All right,
cavity.
ready for another one? You ready for another one?
Yes.
Okay, this has to do with George Harrison. As a young child, how did George Harrison almost die? A, fire. B, drowning. C, playing with a live artillery anti-aircraft shell left over from World War II. What do you think?
Wow.
Tell us those again. The third one is a shell.
Yeah. Okay, A is fire. How did George Harrison almost die? In a fire. B, drowning. C, playing with a live artillery anti-aircraft shell left over from World War II.
I would think drowning. What do you think, Warren?
I think drowning too, but because C is so unusual, I might want to go with that there, Bob.
I'm thinking C is a trick, but let's go to our lifeline, Carol Brown. What do you think?
I think drowning.
She said B. Drowning.
So we'll go with the wisdom of Mrs. Warren, Carol Brown. We'll go with drowning.
All right. Nope, you guys were right the first time. It was C. He was playing with a live artillery anti-aircraft shell left over from the
Warren was right. I wasn't right.
Yeah. Well,
he was playing with a shell. Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, that's in Tony Bramwell's book, Magical Mystery Tours. He was a guy that grew up with the Beatles and George in particular. And remember, because I've been to Liverpool too, it was during World War II because of the docks, the Nazis, the Luftwaffe bombed the heck out of that place. So when they were bombing, the British naturally had their anti-aircraft, and that stuff was left over. And here's George, like 5 or 6 years old, with Tony, and they found this shell and were messing around with it. And had they continued to hit it with a rock, they could have blown up, and somebody, found it and took it away from them, and had the army, deactivate it or make it so it wouldn't be explosive. So they could have gotten killed doing that.
Wow,
the sad thing is I read Tony Bramwell's book, and I didn't remember that story. I even interviewed him once. But, all right, so I should have remembered that. George was hitting a bomb with a rock, okay.
Right.
And that was so unusual. I would have guessed that, and because of the area and the war being right there, I would have guessed that.
Well, we should have gone with Warren, so technically we would have gotten it right if we went with him. And I should go with him too, because if we get it wrong, then it's all on him. So remind me to defer to Warren more.
You guys battle that out. Later.
All right.
All right. You ready for another one? Right.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys know this one. Who was the first American singer to cover a Beatles song? A, Ricky Nelson. B, Del Shannon. C, Roy Orbison.
Del Shannon.
I'll go with him.
That's correct. From me to you. That was him. Del Shannon.
Yay, right. Warren, yay.
All right. Here we go. Another one. This has to do with Paul McCartney. Mary McCartney.
Was he a Beatle?
What's that?
Was he a Beatle? I heard rumors. All right. It has to do with Paul McCartney. Sorry.
Here we go.
William
Here's a question dealing with Paul. We ready? Mary McCartney, Paul's mother, was a nurse, and during World War II was almost sent off to what country as a British Army nurse? A, Egypt. B, India. C, Hong Kong.
That's on you, Bob. I have no clue on that one.
So this was during World War II?
Right.
Carol, do you have any idea?
Let me hear the choices again.
What's the choices again?
The choices are A, Egypt. B, India. C, Hong Kong.
I'll say A.
I'll go along with him because of Egypt Station.
Okay. All right, you guys are right. It was Egypt. Here's the thing.
Yay.
The reason why I asked that question, this is before Paul was born. Remember, he was born in 42. So had Mary been sent to Egypt, Paul may not have been born because, she would have been gone on tour of duty probably for a couple of years. But that's, because the way what was going on there. So anyway.
Then they would have been the Fab Three.
Or John would have to find somebody else,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we know how important Paul was with all that, so who knows what would have happened. Okay, here we go. Now, this one here, let's see. The next category has to do with, the Beatles in general, sort of. It's true or false. George Harrison was the Beatle who got tired of the group's altar boy image compared to the Rolling Stones' bad boy look. True or false?
I'm going to say false. How about you, Bob?
I was thinking John myself. I don't know if he privately felt that way, but John was the one who kind of went nuts. So I would go with John.
You're right. It's false. It's false. It was John that, kept talking about that, saying, he wanted to be like that. They wanted to have that image. All right.
Okay.
Good.
What was the
Here
answer?
we go. Have something to say? Go ahead.
What was the answer, Evan? Was it true?
We got her.
It's false.
You got it right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's false. It wasn't George. It was John that was the one that was upset or wanted to be. It was jealous of that bad boy image.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, next question. Ringo Starr. When Ringo Starr was in school at age 12, in what subject did he excel the most? A, math, B, music, C, drama.
I'm not going to say music because it's too obvious. So we got math or drama. What do you think?
I think C, drama.
I think so too because he was out of school so much. I don't think he'd be good at math. He'd have to be like a natural math genius. So I agree with Warren.
Drama. And remember later on he got into acting. So out of everybody else, he went towards acting.
Yay!
Correct.
We're on a roll, Bob.
Play the Jeopardy music.
We're on a roll.
We need that Jeopardy music. All right.
All right. Here we go.
Yes,
Here's another one. This question is the Beatles in general. It says, when the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was released in 1967, what Beatle changed the most in appearance? And, of course, it would be A, John, B, Paul, C, George, D, Ringo. I probably should add, this is according to the press. When the press made comments about, on that, which one changed the most. So what do you think? You think it was John, Paul, George, or Ringo?
And just on instinct, I would say John. His appearance?
Yeah.
Yeah. His appearance, is that what you mean?
Yeah. The one recognized the least, I guess you could say.
I'm going to say George.
I would say John. Maybe we need your wife as a tiebreaker because John kind of looked aged a little bit, and he had they all had mustaches, but John didn't look Beatley anymore.
Correct. Carol agrees with him.
But what do you think?
I'll go with you two, John.
All right.
Final answer.
Okay. It was John. Because of the NHS glasses, and he just, like you said, he just looked, according to the press now. I mean, maybe some of us would have said, hey, that's John. But they claimed, too, he was wandering around, and people didn't really recognize him at first. And, of course, when the album came out, they go, oh, look, it's John. But you got that one right, too.
All right. If I didn't screw Warren up on one, we would have gotten all of them so far. So we're doing pretty good, except for the one I tripped us on.
I got to tell you, when I have the Beatles trivia night at this pub and place, it's getting quite a crowd's coming. A lot of people come in, And some of them I know, some of them I don't. New people are showing up, and some of them say, "Oh yeah, I brought so and so with me, and we know everything there is about people." And you can tell they get really mad and frustrated because they don't get any of them right hardly. So, and they get mad at me. It's like, look, it's just fun. It's not like our life depends on it. Okay, here we go. This one has to do with movies. In one scene of the first Beatles movie, A Hard Day's Night, is of schoolgirls on a train with the Beatles. Who played these schoolgirls? A, young girls just released from several Liverpool hospitals. B, models in their late teens dressed and made up to look younger. C, real schoolgirls from London.
Patty Boyd was a model, and that's where George met her.
Correct. I would say, I'll say B on that.
Yeah, it was. It was the models. They were like, see, you guys know that, and I know that, and a lot of fans, but a lot of people are like, they have no clue, and you'd be amazed how they go for the other answers. All right, here we go. Now, this is back to Paul McCartney. What was the occupation of Jane Asher's father, the girlfriend, fiance of Paul McCartney? A, English professor. B, stage play director. C, doctor.
I'm going to say doctor. I remember that from a book, I think, but what do you think?
I agree. I'll go with that.
That's it. He was some type of psychologist, actually. So he was a doctor. Very good.
Yay.
All right. Here we go. Here's another.
I think we're 8 of 9, but I don't want to jinx us.
All right, here we go. I know you guys know this one. Which Beatle made this statement? Without Elvis, there would be no Beatles. A, John. B, Paul.
John.
I'll go with John.
It's John.
Carol goes with John.
When I asked that, you'd be amazed how many people said Paul.
Carol wants to know which Beatle didn't like Elvis.
I thought they all liked him, but I would say the least. I heard
George.
Ringo. I thought George liked him.
Ringo didn't.
Ringo, she said.
Yeah, it was Ringo, I thought. So.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. All right, here we go. This one now has to do with the category of music or whatever. The album, you guys know this one. The album Beatles for Sale was originally released in which country? America or England? It's one or the other.
England.
That's it. England it was. Later on, though, remember they released all those here, but originally that was if you could get a hold of Beatles for Sale. Back when I lived in Baltimore, Warren, that was like getting a gold nugget, having that album.
I remember that. You're correct.
Okay, here we go. This one has to do with the concerts now. Which Beatle made this statement regarding Beatles concerts? The fans paid with their money, while the Beatles paid with their nervous systems.
George.
Ringo or George? Okay. What do you say?
George. The lifeline says George.
It was it. It was George. Very good.
I have a question for you guys. What is a publication with 370 million visitors in all their pages, read by thousands of fans around the world every day? Play the Jeopardy music. Beatles news updated daily. Can we have the Jeopardy music in the background with this one?
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay, 24 hours, audio, video, photos, interviews, contests, additional material of all sorts, and more. They have the most complete online coverage 24 hours a day and 8 days a week. Warren Brown, do you need a lifeline to tell me who this is?
I don't need a lifeline on this one. It's pretty easy to answer, and that would be Miss Lovely Rita's page, the Beatles magazine.
It's Lovely Rita and Beatles Magazine, our sponsor of this wonderful show. It is an awesome, it's an awesome page. It's a website also, a Facebook page. It's on Twitter. It's on Pinterest. It's everywhere the kids would want to go. So tune in and find out all things Beatles. We'll see you there. Now for the next question.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know about that site. I think I've seen it advertised. I'll have to check it out. Okay,
It's worth it.
Yeah. Next question. Okay, next question has to do with the music again. The Rolling Stones' first #1 hit was a Beatles cover song. What was this song? A, Little Child. B, I'll Get You. C, I Want to Be Your Man.
I Want to Be Your Man.
Yep, I agree.
I'm going to say 3, and my wife agrees.
That's it. That's funny when you see Paul in concert. Last time I saw him, he started talking about that because he played that. Remember, he's allowed now to play all the Beatles songs he wants because he's got the rights back so long without having to pay for songs that were theirs at one time. But he was telling the story. He was telling the story about the Stones. You know how everybody thought they were rivals and hated each other, and he said no. You know, and he said how they ran into them and they just didn't. They were just doing cover songs, the Stones, and they wanted something, and then that's when the Beatles said, well, hey, we just wrote one, and maybe we can work it out, and you can do that and sing that song. Of course, Ringo remembers saying it too, on Meet the Beatles and With the Beatles. But the Stones released it as a single, and they went to #1 with it.
Well, John and Mick became real good friends, didn't they?
Yeah. John and Mick got along pretty good. Like I said, that's the thing that was kind of made John mad. He said, why can't we have the image of the Stones? But Brian Epstein had them, with the suits and all that kind of stuff, and he just didn't go for that bad boy image. And yet that fit John better when you think about it. So that's the reason why he and Mick got along so well.
It fit Paul pretty good too with all the love songs that he was writing. I can't see them taking a bad boy image.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying John was saying he had, and even George a little bit, like Bob had said, George kind of liked the Stones too. Remember, because Keith Richards and him were like on the same lineup, lead guitar and all that. So they, I guess they partied and hung out and all that. But because remember, Liverpool, where the Beatles were from, was more working class anyway. Whereas, the Stones came from what they claim. I mean, I don't know as much about the Stones as other people out there, but from what I understand, they were more middle class, and yet they had the bad boy image, and here the Beatles had the, clean up, the suits and ties image.
Well, then after they went for the bad boy image, they got arrested by Sergeant Pilcher, and George had to be bailed out, and then Yoko had to be bailed out, and they were all getting in trouble, so maybe they should have stayed with the mop tops.
Could be.
They wouldn't have been needing bail.
Could be. I find it.
They were singing some Jailhouse Rock.
I know. I find when I do this trivia, a lot of times I find there's 3 different categories or class of Beatles fans. Some people come in and they like the mop top image, like you said, from Ed Sullivan times, maybe up to Help. And then some of them like the kind of the mid Beatles, I call them, the Revolver, Rubber Soul type sound like that, and then the psychedelic, and then others like just the White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be, the later years, and that's what they'll say. They'll tell me, they're all different ages. They'll say, well, I'm an expert, or I like the psychedelic Beatles, or I like the mop top Beatles, or I like the later Beatles. So I just tell them, say, well, that's nice. I just like them from start to finish.
That's a good answer.
Me too.
Okay, here we go.
That's a correct answer there, Evan.
Yeah, right. Just say I like them all. All right, here we go. This one has to do with movies again here. In the Beatles movie Magical Mystery Tour, part of the cast was made up of 40 midgets. This was what Beatles' idea? And again, John, Paul, George, or Ringo. Which Beatle do you think?
If it's midgets, I got to go with John from the Goon Show.
I don't really know the answer to this, so I'm going to go with Bob.
It was John. Yeah, he was obsessed with like little people and stuff like that. So just kind of like circus stuff too. Remember, like John's being for the benefit of Mr. Kai. He liked all that circus act stuff and everything. So to have a bunch of little midgets, that was his thing.
Anything a little weird, John liked.
Of course. Yeah, and that's why we like him. Probably love him so. All right, here we go. This one has to do with concerts again. The wife of what Beatle, while attending a 1965 Beatles concert in Hammersmith, England, was assaulted and beat up by screaming young girl fans made up of 13 to 15-year-olds? A. Cynthia Lennon, B. Maureen Starr, C. Patty Harrison. Which wife beat up?
I go with the A.
I concur. I'll go with Warren on this one.
How about you, Carol? I see you thinks as Patty.
So what do you guys decide?
Well, we've got a few answers in there. I'm very confused. What was the order they were given in again, so we don't pick the wrong one? At least we.
Cynthia Lennon, Maureen Starr, Patty Harrison.
A.
I would say A too. If they knew who she was, they'd probably rough her up.
And Carol
if anybody
says A.
spotted her.
We all say A, Evan.
Okay, sorry, it was Patty. Now here's the thing: Patty actually was not married to George at that time because they got married in '66. I considered a wife, girlfriend, wife, and if I asked the question, I had to ask it, like they were married and all that. But it was Patty that got beat up, and after that, but they didn't like the wives to come to the concerts anyway. But for the longest time, anytime Patty saw 3 or 4 young girls on the streets, she freaked out because she figured they'd recognize her and, beat her up again.
Rough her up. Good Lord.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. That's pretty bad, though. Here we go. This has to do with Paul McCartney. Beatles girl fans who like Paul McCartney started wearing their hair like his girlfriend, fiancée, Jane Asher, and even using the shampoo she advertised on television. This was what shampoo? A. Prel, B. Breck, C. VO5.
I think it was B. Carol says it was Pro.
Well, you guys pick. I'm not sure, so I'll leave it up to you two.
I'll go with Carol. She's the smart one here. Prel.
So you said Prel, A? Okay. No, it was B. It was Breck.
I knew he should have said that. No, I didn't.
Okay, here we go. Here's another one with movies. I know you guys will know this one. In the Beatles movie A Hard Day's Night, John is seen taking a bubble bath and playing with a toy submarine singing what song? A. Britannia, B. God Save the Queen, C. Row, row, row your boat.
It wasn't row, row, row your boat. It was one of the other two.
I say A. A.
Is that your final answer?
Final answer.
You're right. It was Britannia, A. Yeah. We know it wasn't Yellow
Yay.
Submarine because that wasn't written yet.
That was my wife that answered correct, not me.
Yay.
That was it. All right, here we go. This one has to do with concerts again. In 1965, while the Beatles were performing in what European city and country did the police have to fight off photographers because the group was being mobbed by them? A. Copenhagen, Denmark, B. Rome, Italy, C. Amsterdam, Holland.
Holland was pretty nuts. I mean, Holland was like a wild place.
I think it was Copenhagen.
I'll go with you. I'll defer to Warren. Check with the lifeline there.
And she said Copenhagen too.
I'll go with you guys.
Final answer.
Copenhagen. Okay. No, it was Amsterdam, Holland. Bob was right.
Oh, wow.
Say that again. Bob was right. Just kidding.
That's right.
I was guessing.
Well, remember, like you said, Bob, about how they were. Remember, they were jumping in the canals. The fans were, but the press was like really. Photographers were like really crazy, and the police had to, literally beat them off and all.
Wow.
Amsterdam's a pretty wild place, they say.
Yeah, still is. All right, here we go. Now, this is Ringo Starr. In 1967, Ringo Starr starred in the movie Candy. What character did Ringo play? A. Gardner, B. Playboy, C. Bullfighter.
Gardner. I'll let you guys hash it out. I say Gardner.
What was the answers again, Evan?
A gardener, playboy, or bullfighter.
I'm going to say B. But for us all to agree, I'll go with A. Final answer.
We'll check what it would. Let's get. All right, we got it right, so I won't monkey with it
was
anymore. I'll
gardener,
just take that it was right.
Yeah.
Yay!
Okay. This next question here with music, nobody got this right on the trivia nights. Okay, what Beatles song? This has got to do with music. What Beatles song sounds like it has seagull cries in the background? A. Yellow Submarine. B. Tomorrow Never Knows. C. Octopus's Garden.
Tomorrow Never Knows.
Tomorrow Never Knows.
That's it.
Tomorrow Never Knows.
That's it. It does sound like seagulls. And yet, everybody's like, oh, it's got to be Yellow Submarine. It's got to be Octopus. And a lot of them like, I don't even remember that song. So I said, well, go home and get on YouTube and listen to it.
That's Bob's theme song.
That's right.
Well, that's the theme song to our page, Tomorrow Never Knows, with Bob and Warren.
Correct. And there you go, Bob.
I thought that before I even read it in a book or something. I thought when I first heard that, it sounded like birds and seagulls to me. All right, here we go. This has to do with concerts again, or something like that. Before the Beatles came to America to perform on his show, Ed Sullivan thought this group was what kind of act? A, clowns. B, comedy team. C, animal act.
Carol says animal act. I'm going to say
I'll go along with you guys.
All right. Animal act. Final answer.
That's it. You're correct. That's what he thought.
Remember
he ran into the fans at London. He was in London at the airport, and they just came back from Sweden, and that's when everybody said the Beatles, and he go, well, who are the Beatles? But he, like you said, he thought they were some, like you said, an animal act. Right. This next question has to do with Paul McCartney. When the Beatles first came to America, Paul was asked who was his favorite American female vocalist. Who did Paul say was his favorite? A, Mary Wells. B, Leslie Gore. C, Doris Day.
I think it's A, but I'm guessing.
I think it's A too.
We all say A. Final answer.
That's it. Mary Wells was the one he liked the most. Remember, she toured with them briefly in England too. Before they came to America. Some of those American acts toured with them in England, and he really fell for her voice and all. Okay, this one has to do with music, kind of sort of. It says to encourage kids to stay in school, what early Beatles 45 record had printed on the label "Don't Drop Out"? A, Toily label, Twist and Shout. B, Swan label, She Loves You. C, VJ label, From Me to You.
Ooh, that's a good question. Me and Carol are stumped.
She Loves You was that broke over here on a different label in Capitol, but I don't remember if it said anything on it. From Me to You was a very early song, and maybe then they was. So, well, you guys pick. I would go with From Me to You, but it's a guess.
I'll go with VJ. Correct. We all agree. Final answer.
VJ, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
No, it was the Swan label. Don't Drop Out. It was a black label. And it had that written on there.
And what song was that, though?
She Loves You. Yeah, the Swan.
Okay.
Yeah. I still have that record. Yeah. Now I remember
That's
later on
awesome
they started releasing them on other labels and all, but the first, on She Loves You, the first label over here at least was Swan, because Capitol wasn't taking them up yet. Remember? And that's why they were on those obscure labels.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Good question.
This has to do kind of with concerts here, in a sense. True or false? In 1969, as the Beatles were breaking up, Paul McCartney played in John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Plastic Ono band for a benefit concert in London. True or false?
True.
McCartney?
Well, doing the record, I don't
Paul.
know.
I would say false.
The only time they played together was in California, I believe. So I would say false.
That's right.
I think
wasn't Paul.
George did that.
It was it. That's it. It was George. George joined him on that. I mean, technically they were still together. I mean, legally together, and they hadn't officially made the announcement like they did in '70. But no, but he did a benefit concert, and George did go up there and back him up with it. So it was not McCartney. So you guys got that right. All right, let's see. What Beatle referred to the Get Back, Let It Be recording sessions as the most miserable sessions on Earth? So A, John, B, Paul, C, George, D, Ringo.
My first guess would be George.
I say
Who
George
did you pick?
Too. What you pick?
I don't think George. I think Paul.
She says Paul. I'm going to say George. And Bob says George, so we're going to go with George. Final answer.
Okay, believe it or not, it was John. I mean, all of them had problems, and George walked out and all that, remember? But it was John that made the statement that was the most miserable recording sessions and all that.
Wow.
Okay, here we go. This has to do
Ringo.
with music. I'm sorry, you guys have something else?
No, go ahead, Evan.
I'm ready.
All right. And, this has to do with music. In the summer of 1969, the Beatles recorded a song that was never released titled 4 Nights in a Certain City. What was this city? A, Paris, B, Bangkok, C, Moscow.
What do you think, Bob? I think Moscow.
My guess was Bangkok, but it's a...
Okay, final answer, Bangkok.
Okay, it was Moscow. Bob had it right.
Oh, we should have gone with Warren.
Yeah. But it was supposed to be like a follow-up song to like Back in the USSR. I only heard part of it on YouTube. I heard a little. To me, it sounded okay, but it was just one of these ones. Maybe it's on a bootleg album. I don't get into the bootleg stuff, so I don't know. But they never just released it. It was in between. Well, it had to be in between the White Album and before they broke up. Maybe Abbey Road or something. Who knows? Okay, let's see. This next one has to do with Ringo. In 1970, when it was official that the Beatles had broken up and all of them had accepted this decision, where was the first place Ringo went to? A, London bar. B, home to his garden. C, flew off to California, USA.
Disneyland.
I'll go with Warren. He was very authoritative on that. I don't know.
They all went to Disneyland. They signed the paperwork, didn't they?
Well, no, but this was before they broke.
This was immediately. This was right after it happened.
Right, yeah. When the press and the world, when we knew that they broke up, remember it took a couple of years for them to get all that, legal stuff straightened out.
Right.
I'd say he went to the bar and got loaded.
I'd say he went home.
I'll go with Warren.
Okay. What's the final answer then?
Home. Final answer.
You're right. Home to his garden. That's what he did.
Yay.
He was pretty upset. Okay, here's another movies one. In the Beatles movie Magical Mystery Tour, Paul McCartney filmed the song The Fool on the Hill in what country? A, France, B, Ireland, C, Italy.
He was running around the hills, so it was England or it was in Europe. It was in Italy.
I say Ireland.
I'm thinking it's England, but I'm not positive. But
didn't you say?
I know that he was running around the fields, and I think that the Bramwell guy filmed it.
Okay, I'll go with.
What does your lifeline say?
The same thing. She agreed.
I'll go with Warren.
Well, what? I didn't hear the answer though. What was it? What'd you say?
Go ahead, Bob.
What did Carol say?
I thought it was England.
England.
But England's not one of the answers. The answers.
Well, that makes it hard to pick then.
Let me read the question.
Try that on Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. That's not one of the answers.
I'll read the question again. In the Beatles movie Magical Mystery Tour, Paul McCartney filmed the song The Fool on the Hill in what country? A, France, B, Ireland, C, Italy.
I'm going to say Ireland.
I say France.
And Carol says France. What do you say, Bob?
I know he was running around the hills. I think Tony Bramwell filmed it. The other ones weren't there. So they must have been away, so England wasn't a choice anyway. I'll go with what you guys pick. You hash it out between you two.
I thought Ireland, but I think France.
Okay, I'll go with our lifeline. She says France.
And she's correct. It was France. Remember, it was a real hit. He went over there. He didn't have his passport. He didn't have any ID. He didn't have anything, and he just kind of like landed someplace and he got in trouble. So but anyway, they still filmed it and all that. Okay, let's see. This next one has to do with concerts. In the early 1960s, one of the songs the Beatles performed on stage was a Goffin King song called Chains. This song was originally covered by what American female group? A, the Marvelettes, B, the Cookies, C, the Shirelles.
I think it was the Shirelles, if I can recall right.
The Cookies. I say Cookies.
And what do you say, Bob?
I'll go with you guys.
And what do you want to go
I
with?
say the Cookies.
What was that, B? What was the choices again, Evan?
A, the Marvelettes, B, the Cookies, C, the Shirelles.
All right, she says B, and final answer.
Your lifeline's correct. It was the Cookies.
Yay!
I mean, they did sing a lot of Shirelle cover songs, but Chains was, that one there was given to the. Maybe the Shirelles sang it later on, but originally it was the Cookies that did that song. Okay, let's see. Next one is music. The background trees on the front cover of the Beatles album Rubber Soul was taken at what location? A, outside of Abbey Road Studios. B, John Lennon's garden at his Weybridge mansion. C, London's Hyde Park.
I'd go with Weybridge.
I'll go with Weybridge. How about you?
I guess. I was going to get John.
All right, final answer, Weybridge.
That's it. It was John's house back at his garden. I think you posted a picture. I think you posted a picture recently, Warren, which showed like an alternate picture of their full bodies.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah, and that's John's garden. Okay, let's see another one with movies now. You guys will know this one. In the Beatles movie Magical Mystery Tour is a scene when the song I Am the Walrus is featured. What kind of people are seen dancing on the wall near the Beatles? A, 4 policemen, B, 4 nuns, C, 4 soldiers.
I know this answer. I know this answer. That's A. Carol says A too. Final answer.
Okay, that's it. Mr. City, Policeman City. Right. That's it. Okay, she got that right. All right, here we go. This is a category that just deals with the Beatles in general. It says, in the beginning of Beatlemania, the fans from what country where the group was banned didn't know which Beatle was Lennon or McCartney? A, Saudi Arabia, B, Cuba, C, Soviet Union.
Ooh, good question. I don't remember them being over in Cuba. Were they there, Bob?
Was this a record that was there or them that was there?
Well, I mean, no, remember, people were bringing stuff in, or what do you call it? Like,
so these were records, like.
They just didn't know. Like I said, it was banned, but they somehow got a hold of music or something, heard it on the radio, but they didn't know which one was which. So which?
I'd go with Soviet Union, but it's a guess.
I think Cuba.
But they had a lot of their stuff in South America that was released. Like, they had a lot of records released there. The Soviet Union, it was harder to get the records. Not that I think Castro was handing them out like candy, but
Right.
South America had Beatle records, but I don't think Moscow had so many at first.
Okay. We'll go with your answer, Bob.
Now I'm under pressure.
Final answer, Evan.
But tell me again. I didn't hear. You went back and said which one is it?
Soviet Union. Soviet Union.
Yep. Yep. It was the Soviet Union. That was it. Evidently, they did have some records. They bootlegged them in and they actually recorded them on some type of X-ray. It was weird how they did it. And then plus they have Radio Free Europe broadcast in some of the music. And the teenagers were starting to know who they were, but they didn't know which one was which. So that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it was the Soviet Union. Good job.
Now that you explained that answer, I remember hearing about that, and I think that is correct. The Soviet Union. Good answer, Bob.
All right, we're a team. We're working. We're going through.
Yeah. All right, this has to do with movies. This has to do with movies again, a little bit different. In what James Bond movie does Agent 007 mention the Beatles? A, Dr. No, B, Goldfinger, C, Thunderball.
He says that he only listens to the Beatles with earmuffs.
Yes, that was B, Goldfinger.
That's it. It was Goldfinger. Got it right. Okay, let's see. Right. You guys know this is easy. This is about the Beatles in general. The brother of which Beatle, Paul or George, played in a Liverpool band called Scaffold, also managed by Brian Epstein? Paul or George? Which brother?
I think
Paul. Mike McGear. Paul McCartney.
Yep.
Final answer.
That's it. Yeah, it was Paul. Michael. That's right. That was him. George did have a brother, but then he'd been in the band with him, but he didn't do anything like Paul's brother did.
Correct.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. This has to do with music. On the front cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart